Good evening, Samish. Okay, so in the last class we had talked about the various types of neurotransmitters, and also we had conversed regarding the way our action potentials work, and also how the resting immunity action potential stays at minus 70 millivolt, and also we had talked about the specificities regarding the ion channels, sodium voltage gated ion channels, and potassium voltage gated ion channels, right? So today's class will be talking about, you can say, the types of neurotransmitters, and then we'll be delving on to the types of, you can say, or the anatomy of the human eye itself. So there we will be talking about that. So let's talk about the types of neurotransmitters. Okay. So before going into that, let's talk about the neurotransmitter types. Good evening, Pratham. So now, today we'll be talking about the types of the neurotransmitters which I had just made you acquainted with in the last class, and also we'll be talking about the entire anatomy pertaining to human eye. Okay. So now let's talk about the types of neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters and neuromodulators, both we have talked about briefly in the last class, right? That neuromodulators are the molecules which won't be directly causing the change in action potential, but they will be causing the neurotransmitter to be over, you can say, secreted, under secreted, and also they can tame down or enhance the response to the neurotransmitter on the postsynaptic neuron. Okay, so when we come to the types of neurotransmitters, so basically neurotransmitters have been divided into, you can say, biogenic amines, neuropeptides. Okay, so biogenic amines, they are very small neurotransmitter molecules. Okay, very very small. So what happens is there are mostly, you can say, 3 to 4 neurotransmitters which come under the biogenic amine category. Okay, so when we talk about the biogenic amine category, we have the catecholamines. Under catecholamines, we have epinephrine, then we have norepinephrine, then we have dopamine. Okay, because these three neurotransmitters are called as catecholamines. Why? Because they are synthesized from the amino acid tyrosine. Because tyrosine is the amino acid which is the precursor of all these three neurotransmitters. Out of these three, what happens is when we talk about epinephrine and norepinephrine, they are both the neurotransmitters and hormones. This question comes a lot in your competitive exam and also in your home exam, also if the paper is quite tough. Okay, they'll be asking why is it known as, or why epinephrine and norepinephrine, that is adrenaline and noradrenaline, are known as both hormone and a neurotransmitter. So the answer is, since it's a hormone, right, means it must be secreted by a gland. So they are epinephrine and norepinephrine, they are secreted by the, you can say, medullary region or the medullary region of the adrenal cortex. Therefore, they act as hormones, but they are also secreted by the synaptic end bulbs of the sympathetic neurons. The neurons which are the sympathetic neurons, they form the sympathetic division of the autonomic nervous system. Okay, of the autonomic nervous system. So the specificities of how the sympathetic nervous system really perpetuates, how it is integrated into the, you can say, spinal cord, and you can say the rami communicantes, which I had shown you in the last class, ventral ramus, dorsal ramus, okay, how it will synapse in the intervertebral, you can say, neuron, that is known as the sympathetic trunk ganglia, that is not given in your syllabus, so we skip that part. But sympathetic nervous system, you know, that means that it is the excitatory one that I had told you, that it will increase the heart rate, you can say constrict the blood vessels, okay, increase the blood pressure. That is the excitatory one. So it is secreted by the neurons also, and it is secreted by the adrenal gland also. It's a very, very special, you can say, molecule. So epinephrine and norepinephrine are therefore known as both a hormone, they are both hormones, and they are also neurotransmitters. Now coming to the dopamine hormone, right? So dopamine, we are all aware of the dopamine. Might have heard of dopamine, right? So it is produced in the midbrain region. Midbrain has one of the, you can say, the biggest nuclei, means cluster of cell body present in the midbrain, is known as substantia nigra. Substantia nigra. Now this specific nucleus, means the cluster of neuronal cell bodies or cyton in the CNS, they are specific neurons which secrete dopamine. So they are known as dopaminergic neurons. Okay. Now they secrete the neurotransmitter dopamine, which are extremely essential for what? For maintaining the muscle tone also, and our mood also. Maintaining the muscle tone, because if dopamine secretion is less, then muscle tone goes wayward, maintaining muscle tone and our mood also. Okay, so that is one of the best examples of the usage of dopamine. So what happens in there is a disease known as Parkinson's. So Vladimir Putin, the present president of the country, Russia, has been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Now he will be resigning pretty soon from his presidential post. So you can say that Parkinson's disease occurs why? Because these dopaminergic neurons start to degenerate. Degenerate means they start to die, necrosis. Okay, there are multiple theories. One is the alpha synuclein accumulation is there, but those are not in your course. The thing is, they start to degenerate. How they start to degenerate, or how do they begin to degenerate? Okay, so that I can explain to you in some later classes, because that's not really in the course, not even in the, you can say, competitive level. So alpha synuclein theory and all those are not to be discussed here. But the thing is, they start to die. Okay, you can think of it. They start to die, and when they die, who will secrete dopamine? Very, very less neurons. So the dopamine level will always plummet. Because of this, what you will be having is, you will be having tremors like this. You will be having seizures, right? You will be losing control of your tongue, of your balance, that is gait, walk, right? Then writing, then jumping, dancing, everything will be in a lot of distress. The patient will be in a lot of distress. The only proper medicine is, you can say, levodopa, which is the, you can say, carboxylated what is called decarboxylated dopamine. Okay, and there are others also, other medicines which inhibit the degradation of epinephrine, norepinephrine, COMT inhibitors, then monoamine oxidase AB inhibitors, but still the patient, the condition of the patient keeps on worsening, you can say. Still the scientists have not been able to find the perfect cure for this disease. So the thing is, we have specific, you can say, neurotransmitters. Number one is the norepinephrine. So it is a neurotransmitter which is widely distributed in the brain, you can say. Okay, and in also the portions of the autonomic nervous system, just like I had explained to you. Now, norepinephrine is also known as noradrenaline, okay, that we all know. Then dopamine, as I told you, it is a central nervous system neurotransmitter, okay. So what it does is it is released by selected area in the brain, I told you, meaning the substantia nigra, and responsible for Parkinson's disease if those neurons they happen to die. Then we come to a very specific neurotransmitter known as serotonin, okay. So serotonin is a very special neurotransmitter. It is also known as the happy hormone, okay, not a hormone, but in layman term, it is known as happy hormone. It is secreted or it is synthesized in the body from the, you can say, amino acid tryptophan. Okay, so tryptophan is hydroxylated to 5-hydroxy tryptamine. Okay, it is then converted to, you can say, serotonin later on. So 5-hydroxy tryptophan, then 5-hydroxy tryptamine will be produced, leading to the formation of serotonin. Okay, so I can show you the serotonin pathway also here. Serotonin synthesis pathway. You can say synthesis. If I can show you proper image. Very simple image. See, tryptophan hydroxylase. What you get is, you can say, 5-hydroxy tryptophan. Okay, then this tryptophan will be later on, this tryptophan will start to be decarboxylated. When it is decarboxylated, what will happen is the decarboxylation of tryptophan will lead to the formation of 5-hydroxytryptamine, and that decarboxylation 5-hydroxytryptamine formation, okay, is known as, or the 5-hydroxytryptamine is only known as serotonin. You can say directly, right? So serotonin is nothing but, you can say, 5-hydroxy, or simply you can say the decarboxylation of trypto, or you can say 5-hydroxy tryptophan, okay, or simply decarboxylation of 5-hydroxy tryptophan by the enzyme, you can say, decarboxylase, okay. So that is how serotonin is produced, and serotonin controls the mood, okay, controls our mood, and is produced by a specific region of the brain known as raphe nucleus. This is another nucleus known by the name as raphe nucleus, okay. So this is produced from raphe nucleus in the brain, and if the serotonergic neurons they start to degenerate, we suffer from some simply known as condition known as depression, okay, then anxiety, mainly depression. So there are antidepressants, okay, in the market. There are, you can say, tricyclic antidepressants. Those are the old ones, but the latest antidepressants are serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor and selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Okay, what it does is, just I'll tell you the meaning of reuptake inhibitor from the medical point of view. Suppose this is the presynaptic neuron, this one is the postsynaptic neuron. Suppose this has synapsed here. Now serotonin has been released. Okay. Now the thing is, whatever serotonin has been able to bind to the serotonergic receptor on the dendritic spine, they'll bind and they'll perpetuate the action potential. Okay, communication is established. But suppose you take the assumption that this neuron or very less amount of serotonin is being produced, so some will bind, but some of it, if it doesn't bind within a short period of time, it will be reuptaken, means the synaptic vesicles will reabsorb it. Now what will happen is, the consequence is, you already have less serotonin, okay, and this mechanism is there all over the, in our, you can say, central nervous system, in everybody. So if you had enough number of neurons secreting serotonin, and in, you can say, appropriate amount, then this mechanism would not hurt you. But the thing is, you have already lesser amount of serotonin in your system, and some of it is binding, some of it may not bind, and that will be reabsorbed, and then the neurons are not secreting serotonin again. So what the scientists have come up with, they have produced a drug which will block the reuptake of serotonin. So reuptake receptors are blocked on the presynaptic neuron, so that is the neurotransmitter, you can say serotonin, it stays in the, you can say, synapse or the synaptic cleft, and therefore it will again bind to the postsynaptic receptor and perpetuate the action potential. So thereby it can increase your, you can say, livelihoodness, and it will make you more lively, it will make you more, you can say, jolly, you can say jovial and all. So it may alleviate your depression like that. So these are all the types of antidepressants that we see. Okay, these are the antidepressants that we have been able to encounter. Okay, so next neurotransmitter that we'll talk about, okay, is a very very important neurotransmitter. After serotonin, we have a specific neurotransmitter which is an amino acid. They are known as, or it is known by the name as, gamma aminobutyric acid. I told you about GABA in the last class. Okay, gamma aminobutyric acid. Okay, so GABA is such a neurotransmitter which will cause hyperpolarization, that we had talked about in the last class itself, that it causes hyperpolarization. It can open the, you can say, chlorine channels, and will drop the action potential and will stop the action potential then only. So it is an inhibitory neurotransmitter, right? Inhibitory neurotransmitter. We had already talked about it in the last class. So it will cause sleep or drowsiness. So all the insomniac alleviating drugs, right? Sleep medications, tranquilizers, mostly they are GABA derivatives or GABA analog like alprazolam. Okay, they are derivatives of GABA. Then next is, we can talk about neuropeptides. Okay, neuropeptides are large, you can say, neurotransmitters. They are polypeptide. Okay, not one amino acid, not simple small molecules. They are neuropeptides. They are a polypeptide. Okay, so what happens is, these compounds have a variety of functions. Okay, and they can also alter the rate of neurotransmitter release, okay, by the presynaptic neuron, or also can change the postsynaptic cell's response to neurotransmitters. So neuropeptides are mostly, they work also as neuromodulators. Okay, so in competitive examination you can write that the neuropeptides, which are polypeptides secreted by the synaptic end bulbs, they do act as neuromodulators. Okay, and since they act as neuromodulators, okay, they can change or modulate the, you can say, effect of the neurotransmitter on the postsynaptic neuron, or the rate of synthesis of the postsynaptic neuron. Okay, rate of synthesis of the neurotransmitter from the presynaptic neuron, and its effect, means its binding effect on the postsynaptic neuron, that it can also do. So one of the best neurotransmitters that I'll tell you, which is a neuromodulator, are the opioids. You must have heard of opioids in your life, right? So we have opioid receptors in our brain also. Okay, opioids. So we do have opioid receptors in our brain. So no need to remember it, I'm just writing for your knowledge. So there are specific opioid receptors. There are three types, okay? Mu, lambda, and delta. There are three types of opioid receptors in the brain, what happens is the opioid receptors, okay, are responsible for binding to the opioids which are synthesized by the human brain, and also the artificial opioids like the opium, the morphine, because morphine is an analgesic which is given to, especially recommended to the patients who are taking chemotherapeutic drugs, because the pain that they suffer cannot be alleviated by simple non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like indomethacin, you can say your ibuprofen, your diclofenac, aceclofenac, and all this, they cannot be even suppressed by taking, you can say, corticosteroids, methyl prednisolone, and all. So the thing is, they need to take morphine. So the thing is, our own brain, okay, they can produce special neurotransmitters, okay, sorry, special neuromodulators which belong to the opioid class. It can produce specialized neuromodulators which belong to the opioid class, okay. So there are three classes of opioids in the central nervous system, okay, that I'll write it down for you. Three classes which come in the NEET examination of opioids in the CNS. Okay, number one is the, you can say, enkephalin. Enkephalin. Number two is the, you can say, endorphins. Number three is the dynorphins. So these are the three classes of, you can say, neuromodulators which belong to the opioid class, okay. Now the primary function of opioids, it's still under research, is probably to relieve pain, okay, that is there. And among these opioids, the, you can say, the most potent opioid related to the pain relieving or pain alleviating effect is dynorphin. It is almost 10 times better, or 10 times, almost 10 times more potent than morphine, you can say. It is more potent than even morphine, but our brain makes it in very, very little quantity. If we can make our brain to make it in higher quantity, we wouldn't be feeling pain, okay. So these are the natural painkillers produced by our own brain. So more potent than morphine, you can say. Morphine is the best painkiller till now, okay, most effective painkiller till now, and this one is more potent than morphine itself, okay. And your body makes sure that you feel pain, because feeling pain is also evolutionarily important, because if you are hurting, you wouldn't be using that limb. Suppose this is broken, I wouldn't be using, if there is no pain, I'll keep on using it, and it will keep getting broken and broken and broken, until till the point comes that this becomes completely unusable, this limb is completely gone. The pain is very, very significant to feel as per the evolution, in order to conserve the, or prevent or prohibit the further damage that can occur to the organ which has got wounded or injured, right? Suppose you have twisted your ligament or torn your ligament, and if you keep on using it, okay, the ligament will not be able to repair itself. That's why we put a cast on it. We say not to move, then the ligament can repair. The bone breakage, the bones can repair, right? Osteoblastogenesis can happen and all. That is again needed by evolution. So we have a specific neurotransmitter known as substance P, which makes us feel pain. Okay. So this neurotransmitter makes us feel pain. Substance P. Okay. So we have various types of neurotransmitters at our disposal. Okay. So those are, and also ATP, okay, ADP, adenosine, okay, they are also like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitric oxide, okay, gaseous neurotransmitters are nitric oxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, then simple molecule. adenosine. Okay, then you have, you can say, ATP, ADP, they also can act as neurotransmitters. Okay, so if you talk about histamine also, you might have heard of histamine produced by the degranulation of mast cells which cause allergy. Okay, histamine is produced from the amino acid histidine. Okay, histidine. This is also a neurotransmitter. Okay, histidine, dopamine. Okay, epinephrine. Then you have norepinephrine. Then you have something known as, these four are there. Then serotonin, five. These five, they come under biogenic amines. Okay. Then we have something known as another class of neurotransmitter known as amino acids. Under amino acid, the excitatory are glutamate and aspartate. Okay, amino acid neurotransmitter. So here you have excitatory. You always should know this table for any competitive examination. Then glutamate. Okay, glutamate, aspartate. Then we have inhibitory neurotransmitters, which are known by the name as GABA and glycine. Gamma amino, butyric acid, and glycine. There is also a molecule known as para-amino benzoic acid known as PABA. Okay, that is also there. Then we have certain neurotransmitters, okay, which are also, you can say, gaseous neurotransmitters. Okay, so that is, before that I'll tell you about the neuropeptides. That is again a heading. I'm just writing down the name so that you know. Neuropeptides. Under neuropeptides, you can have substance P, which makes you feel pain. Substance P. Number two is, you can have another neurotransmitter known as substance Y. Okay. What it does is it can stimulate appetite and food intake. Okay. Simply known as neuropeptide Y also. Neuropeptide Y increases appetite. You can say increases appetite and food intake. Then at number three, you can have another neurotransmitter which are known as the opioids, enkephalin, endorphin, and dynorphin. Okay, enkephalin, then endorphin, then you can have dynorphin also. Okay, so then you will be having other neurotransmitters which are simply, you can say, purines. Purines are ATP, GTP, and adenosine. Okay, which are known as purines. So ATP, GTP. Okay, even simple adenosine means adenine plus the ribose sugar, that is adenosine, that can also act as neurotransmitters. Okay, then various hormones can also act as neurotransmitters. Okay, like ADH, oxytocin, insulin. Okay, vasoactive intestinal peptide, VIP, many hormones are there. Okay, inhibin, atrial natriuretic peptide, which is released from the right atrium. I told you it will act on mesangial cells and make it relax in the nephron and will increase GFR. Then all these things, BNP, so hormones like insulin, then ADH. Okay, then you will be having glucagon, secretin, many are there. ANP, then BNP released from the ventricle of the heart. They act as neurotransmitters too. Then we have gases, under gases, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and vasodilator nitric oxide. They are the neurotransmitters. Then we have lipids. Lipids can also act as neurotransmitter, very, very special. Okay. Example is anandamide. This is a specified lipid which acts as neurotransmitter. So this can cause euphoria, you can say again drowsiness, appetite increase, okay? Those things can be done. It can be taken as an, you can say, as a recreational stuff in which people take, okay? Especially the young generation, they relish all this stuff, so that can be done. So these are all about the neurotransmitters. So now we'll switch to the anatomy of human eye. Okay, human eye. So let's talk about first the accessory structures of the human eye. Okay, accessory structures of or pertaining to human eye. So I'll just show you an image, okay, and then explain the specificities to you. Just hold on, I'll share my screen. Share the screen. Okay, so I think you will be able to see it now. Yeah. Just look at this image, I'm about to share it. Okay, I've shared my screen. I hope you are able to see it. Okay, so I've shared my screen with you. So the thing is, it will just come up on the screen in few seconds. Okay. Yeah. So I hope you are able to see and the font size is proper. Okay, this is the structure of the human eye. Okay, anatomically, the structure of human eye. So what happens is, in human eye, you have the accessory structures like they'll include the eyelids, okay, the superficial epithelium of the eye, as well as the structures involved with the, you can say, production, secretion, and removal of tears, okay. So the eyelids, they're also known as, you can say, palpebrae. You can see in this image, okay, we have the eyelids, okay, which are known as palpebrae. Then what happens is, they are a continuation of the skin only, okay. So their continual blinking, we all know that their continual blinking keeps the surface of the eye lubricated, okay. They also act like, you can say, windshield wipers. In your car you have windshield wiper, so they'll remove the dust and debris. Now the eyes can also close firmly in order to protect the eyes, the, you can say, delicate surface of the eyes from any kind of dust or damage, right? Now you have something known as the, in this diagram you see the palpebral fissure, okay. On this diagram you just see, here you have the palpebral fissure. So this is the is specific, you can say, gap which separates the free margins of the upper and lower eyelid, okay. And the two eyelids are connected at medial angle, which is also known as medial canthus, and the lateral angle or lateral canthus. You can see they are connected at lateral angle, and where is that? Yeah, here is the medial angle, they are connected here, okay. So that is there. So then we will be having, you can say, the next one is the eyelashes. You can talk about. So the eyelashes are associated with usually large sebaceous glands, okay. Those sebaceous glands are oil secreting glands present in the eye, okay. They are known as meibomian glands, or simply the tarsal glands, okay, which are not shown here, but our eyes do contain the tarsal glands, you can say, or meibomian glands, which are the oil secreting glands, you can say, present in our eyes. So these glands, they secrete lipid-rich substances that keep the eyelids from sticking together. That's why our eyelids, they do not stick together, because the oily substance, the lipid-rich substances are secreted. Okay, at the medial angle of the eye, okay, towards this side, we have something known as the lacrimal caruncle. Okay, which is a mass of soft tissue which contains glands producing thick secretions that contribute to the, you can say, gritty deposits that you would be seeing after you take a good night's sleep. You have the deposits, right? That is due to the lacrimal, you can say, caruncle. Sometimes bacteria can come in, okay, can infiltrate, and you can develop cysts, okay, in the eye, that is there. So those are not in your course, so I'm not going to the cyst and all. Chalazion it is known as, so we'll not go into the defect. If you can ask the defect tomorrow in tomorrow's doubt classes, we'll talk about the defects in human eye at that point of time. Now, the skin covering the visible surface of the eyelid is very, very thin. You can say this skin is very, very thin, right? Now, deep to the skin, means underneath the skin, there lies specific muscle fibers, okay, which are known as, you can say, simply, you can say, orbicularis oculi. Okay, no need to remember the name, I'm just telling it for your information only. You can see here, okay, that you will be having lateral angle, orbital fat, okay, so multiple muscles will be there, okay. So you have muscles like, you can say, orbicularis, you can say orbicularis oculi and levator palpebrae superioris muscles, but no need to remember the names and all. Just these are, you can simply think of, these are the muscles which are just beneath this specific, you can say, skin of the eye. Okay, so what they do is, their work is what, how can you just do like this, blink, means you are able to lift and close your eyelid. So these muscles assist, they help in, you can say, close the eyelids and raise the upper eyelid. Okay, only upper eyelid can be closed and raised, you can say. Lower eyelid you cannot move, just like lower jaw you can move, upper jaw you cannot move, just like that. Okay, so that is what it does. Okay, so they help to close the eyelids and raise the upper eyelid respectively, you can say. Now after this, the epithelium covering the inner surface of the skin, means if you lift this skin, the inner surface of the skin, okay, and the outer surface of the eyeball is known as conjunctiva. You might have heard of this name, conjunctiva. So they are known as conjunctiva. So it is a mucous membrane which is covered by a specialized stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, that is what it does. Okay, and sometimes we have something known as inflammation in the epithelium, that is known as conjunctivitis. Okay, that many of us may have suffered from. Okay, also known as pink eye. Okay, is an inflammation of the conjunctiva. Okay, the most common sign is the redness. Okay, that happens due to the dilation of blood vessels which supply, you can say, which are present deep to the conjunctival epithelium, you can say. Now what happens is, we can now talk about the lacrimal gland. Okay, so a constant flow of tears happens every time, right? It keeps the conjunctival surfaces moist and clean. Okay, why tears are produced evolutionarily? Because tears reduce friction, they remove debris, it also prevents bacterial infection. Okay, because tears contain an antibacterial enzyme, okay, which is known as the lysozyme. So tears, they do contain, I'll write it down for you. Tears, they do contain also an antibacterial enzyme. Very, very important for 1 mark question. Known as lysozyme. Okay, so tears do contain lysozyme. Okay, now the lacrimal apparatus, it will produce, distribute, and also it will remove the tear. Okay, so lacrimal apparatus means it contains of a lacrimal gland with associated ducts. Okay, and lacrimal sac and nasolacrimal duct. So that is not in your course in detail. So just know that lacrimal apparatus means the entire, you can say, pathway which will produce tear, distribute tear properly through the canaliculi. The channels are known as canaliculi, lacrimal sac, and in the end you will be having nasolacrimal duct. Okay, so all this will distribute and then reabsorb the tear, remove it and drain it out. Okay, so this is known as the lacrimal apparatus. You just need to know that lacrimal gland is the tear producing gland. That's all. Okay, but lacrimal apparatus, if it comes in the exam, just know that it is the apparatus which will distribute, produce and reabsorb or remove the tears which has been produced. Okay, that's all you need to know. Now, one more thing I'll tell you about the fornix. The fornix of the eye is a pocket created where the palpebral, you can say, conjunctiva becomes continuous with the bulbar conjunctiva. There are two types. Okay, so the palpebral conjunctiva covers the inner surface of the eyelid, and the bulbar conjunctiva covers the anterior surface of the eye. Okay, so you can say palpebral conjunctiva. It covers the inner surface of the eyelid. Okay, means the back surface of the eyelid here. Okay, and the bulbar conjunctiva. Okay, so bulbar conjunctiva covers the anterior surface of the eye. Okay, anterior surface of the eyeball, you can say. That will be better, of the eyeball. So where these two conjunctiva meet upside, okay, there you have an area known as fornix. Okay, where these two conjunctiva meet. Okay, now lacrimal gland, it contains 10 to 12 ducts. Okay, and it is almost 12 to 20 millimeter. Okay, you can say in size. And what happens is the lacrimal gland normally produces key ingredients and most of the volume of the tears, okay, that bathe the, you can say, the conjunctival, you can say, surfaces. Now each lacrimal gland, means both the eyes have one lacrimal gland, each lacrimal gland produces about 1 ml of tear each day. Only 1 ml of tear is produced each day if you don't cry. Okay, so once the lacrimal secretions have reached the ocular surface, the eye surface, okay, they mix with the products of the accessory glands like the tarsal gland, okay, the oily, you can say, the secretions produced by the tarsal glands known as the meibomian glands, and they result in a superior, or you can say superficial, oil slick that aids in lubrication and also slows the evaporation. Okay, so the water and oil, they mix up and that causes proper lubrication. One more thing, blinking sweeps the tears across the ocular surface. It is, if you are seeing, just think that you are blinking, it will sweep the tear across the ocular surface. Now tears accumulate, okay, at the medial angle, this side, okay, of the eye, that is there, that is known as the, that medial angle of the eye is known as the lacrimal lake, or the lake of tears also sometimes, because from here your tears keep on dropping, right? Now what happens is, now we can come to the anatomy of the eyeball. Okay, that is very very important, anatomy of the eyeball. Now your eyes are what? They are extremely sophisticated visual instruments. Okay, they are more versatile and adaptable than, you can say, the most expensive DSLRs or cameras or whatever telescopes we have, but they're more compact than any camera and more durable too. Okay, so each eyeball is a slightly irregular spheroid. Okay, each eyeball is a slightly, you can say, irregular spheroid in structure. Irregularly spherical, you can say. Only slightly, not too much. Now what happens is, they are just little smaller than a ping pong ball, okay, with an average diameter of 24 mm, okay, almost 1 inch, you can say, and weigh about 8 gram each. So average diameter, you can say 24 mm, almost 1 inch, okay, and mass is 8 gram per eyeball, okay. Now, within the, you can say, orbit, the eyeball shares space with the extrinsic eye muscles outside the orbit. This is the orbit, this is the eyeball which is embedded in the orbit. Okay. The lacrimal gland and the cranial nerves and blood vessels, the nerves coming or emanating directly from the brain, and the blood vessels, which you can say supply the eye and adjacent portions of the orbit and face. Okay. Now we have something known as orbital fat that I had showed you. So that orbital fat here, inside it, it cushions and insulates the eye. Okay, you can write it down. That orbital fat, it cushions and insulates the eyes. That is the main function of our orbital fat. Now next, coming on to, you can say, the wall of the eyeball, you can say. The wall of the eyeball means, if you take the eyeball out, it has three distinct layers. Like I told you, the kidney, okay, it has three layers. Most outside is the renal capsule, okay. You can say, sorry, the most outermost layer is the renal, you can say, renal fascia, then the perinephric fat, and then the innermost covering of the kidney is known as the renal capsule, also known as the fibrous capsule. Same way, the entire eyeball is divided into three regions. Okay, three regions. The outermost region is known as the outer fibrous layer. Eyeball, you can say, the outer fibrous layer. Then you have the vascular layer and intermediate, okay, in the middle, okay, vascular layer, which is also known as uvea, okay, and intermediate means in the middle between the two, vascular layer, it is known as uvea, okay. Number 3, you again have the deepest layer of the eye, the deep layer, which is known as the retina, that contains the visual photoreceptors, okay. The deep layer known as the retina. Now we all know that if we talk about simply the retina, okay, we'll talk about all the things. So if we talk about retina, okay, it does contain, you can say, photoreceptors. So we know that there are various kinds of photoreceptors. You might have heard of rods. Okay, so rods, they do not discriminate between the colors of light. Okay, they're highly sensitive to light, but they cannot discriminate. Hence, they enable us to see in, you can say, dimly lit rooms at twilight conditions, or you can say in pale moonlight. Whereas cones, they give us the color vision. So cones give us sharper, clearer images than rods do, but cones require, again, the drawback is more intense light. Okay, so they are better for, you can say, fully lit rooms. Rods are better for dark rooms. Okay, there is one more photoreceptor. Okay, if we talk about photoreceptor in the retina, photoreceptors. We have rods, we have cones. Okay, we have one more photoreceptors that only few people know. Okay, these are known as intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. Okay, just I'll write it for you. No need to know the details, but there are three, so I'll write it down. Intrinsically, you can say, photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. Okay, that is there. You can put the acronym as IPRGC. So these cells are also present, and they contain a special molecule, okay, a special photopigment known as melanopsin, whereas others, these two contains rhodopsin. Okay, rhodopsin, this specific cell contains melanopsin. Okay, which help in special vision, and special vision in the sense they are, you can say, related to melanin. Melanin again is secreted by the pineal gland. So when they receive the light, they perpetuate the 24-hour circadian rhythm or sleep-wake cycle. Okay, the biological clock. So that is the, you can say, importance of this specifically intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. Okay, so more about this we'll be discussing in the next class, how the accommodation happens in the human eye. Okay, how does the eye compare to camera, how is the eye a lens, what is cataract and all, are lens replaceable, is cornea transplant possible? So all those queries I'll be answering in the next class. So I hope you were able to comprehend this lecture. If you have any doubts, you can contact me on my personal number, and tomorrow we'll be having the open interactive Zoom online class. So then I hope you are able to comprehend the lecture. Okay, then thanks a lot. Let's meet in the next class.